Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bodied, the Cloud 9 Fancast. I'm your host,
Woo!
Havoc Puss, and I'm joined by Frozen Creek, my co-host.
Hello. How is it your quarantine going?
Pretty good. I've not been up to much, but that's usually my normal phase. So really, nothing has changed in my life.
Mostly same. I beat Digimon Cyber Sleuth yesterday, which was nice.
I
Great
saw your
game
review of it.
actually. Yeah, actually a really good game. So if you can find it on sale, it's worth picking up on Switch. I don't know what the full price is, but if you can get it for less than $30, it's worth it. I sunk like 100 or 200 hours into it, I think, in like 3 or 4
Oh,
weeks.
jeez.
Well worth it. I will say we are recording this on Wednesday, so anything that happens after this did not happen, including MVP voting. But my stimulus check cashed today, so I am tempted to buy computer parts. I saw a 12-core, 294 thread CPU for like $400. I was like, that would be a really good investment. But it is also not a very good investment for someone who literally just plays League.
Well, now you could play other games if you were to. You could branch out, Frozen. You could grow your horizons.
Oh yeah, I could play Legends of Runeterra because I have not gotten a key for Valorant yet.
I have.
And how is it?
Oh, it feels also there's a sense of superiority that I feel since I have a key and others don't. I feel like I'm in a special club. But I played it for a little bit. It's pretty fun. It's aiming and everything is pretty similar to CS:GO. I like all the abilities, and it feels like it feels more fun. I think because you have different characters and abilities rather than just you're a random dude that's just buying guns and trying to shoot at people. I think Riot was also really smart with the terminology for a lot of the guns and stuff. Like with CS:GO, you have like terrorist and counter-terrorist side, and that's probably kind of difficult to market, especially when it's like, oh, he put down the bomb. They need to defuse the bomb, but instead here it's like they have a spike. They have to defuse the spike. It's very marketable. It's very easy. You just have offense and defense. And you have a spike, and the spike does a thing, but you just have to defuse it. And I like all the names. They were also really smart. They have a sniper rifle called the Operator, and it's very similar to the Op in CS:GO. And so they named it that, so you could just shorten it to Op, and it would mean the same thing. So like a lot of the things that people have terminology wise for CS:GO translate to Valorant. So it feels like a really good game. I'm hoping it does take off because it seems really fun, and I enjoy it a bit more than I enjoy it a lot more than when I tried to play CS:GO. So it's a good game in my approval.
Yeah, I'm passively trying to get a beta key, but I don't have anybody to play it with in my friend group, so I'm not really trying that hard. Since we're talking about Valorant, should you drop that news first?
Yeah, we can transition over to that. So Tens, he was a player on our CS team. He kind of was moved to the bench because he was struggling, kind of adapting to the pro environment and everything. And we got the ATK roster, but he has been forgotten but not lost. He has now announced that he has moved to become Cloud9's first Valorant player. So it looks like he's going to be playing Valorant full time. I'm curious to see how teams actually form, how orgs form their teams since the game is in the beta phase. It seems to be really popular, and it seems like Riot will probably move towards a professional scene since they have a lot of experience with how League works and have seen kind of the trappings of some issues with how CS has worked and everything in other leagues, that they can make a pretty good professional environment. I'm curious to see how we build the team and kind of what the professional scene looks like. It's all very new and very exciting.
Yeah, I have to imagine he'll be a streamer first, but once they get everything going, I do assume there will be a competitive scene of some sort. So once that comes out to everyone, it would be nice to have us pick up a team and be some first adopters, so we can dominate at another game besides League.
It would be amazing if it was similar to how our Overwatch team was. I remember when our Overwatch team first started, and the game was, I believe, still in beta, but our Overwatch team was actually like considered the best team in the world within like the Overwatch beta, because the game is so new. But we had all the best players. Like we had Surefour, and a couple other people, and we were just crushing everybody, and we were just the best. And that was a crazy time for being a Cloud9 fan. So that would be really cool if we somehow did that with Valorant. But I don't expect much, since the game is still super early and people are always having to like learn a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's brand new. Are they expecting to have any lore in the game, or is it just going to be these characters?
I don't think so, which I think is actually a good thing. I saw Monty's points on it, and he made an interesting point of where lore actually kind of detracts from the whole point of a game. Like Overwatch and League, you know, it has all this lore, but it does nothing. You know, it's just kind of fluffy bits to kind of like justify a character's existence, but it really makes no sense to have lore if like you're not doing anything with it. You know, I think Riot maybe teamed up with Marvel to do some League of Legends comics. You know, Riot does these little animated stuff every now and then. You know, that's nice, but I'm not seeing like an anime or anything. You know, there aren't like full-length movies of characters doing things, and the lore doesn't really impact how the game is played. So it feels kind of pointless. And that goes doubly for Overwatch, because Overwatch has lore, but they do literally nothing with it. There is nothing that ties the lore in with Overwatch, and it makes absolutely no sense. So I think that Valorant should definitely just stay away from lore completely. Just introduce these characters, introduce their concepts, and just leave it at that. I think that it would make it much easier to manage the game, instead of having to like, if you're going to make changes to a character or something, be like, well, it doesn't fit with the lore, and it's just like, you know, no one cares. Just make everything balanced.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Though I do like reading about the lore sometimes, I will say.
Yeah,
Though
sometimes
I don't do it much.
Sometimes it can be interesting, but I think that that's not like the main focus of the game. So it feels kind of like it's just tacked on to just be like, look, we have lore, and it's like, but it doesn't govern how the game works in any way. So it kind of, you know, like if it would actually be interesting if in drafting in Champion Select, and this is this is a stupid idea, just to preface this, and it shouldn't be done, but like if the game was more governed by lore, and if you started to pick champions, you would lose champions in the overall pool, because like, well, they would never work with this character. So if you draft like Jhin, for example, there's no way Jhin would ever play with Camille. So you just can't play Camille or anyone who are like the heroes of Piltover or whoever. You know, so it would make the game more interesting. It's a bad design choice, but you know, I just feel like the lore doesn't really impact the game, so it feels kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, but it does add to the whole community and to like the point of like the game in general, though. Like,
No, yeah, I
it
totally
helps
get that.
sell merch and all that other stuff, and it gives them a reason to make these cinematic videos too.
That's true. I think at least that Riot does
And TFT classes also.
Yeah, I think that at least Riot is doing a better job of it and about integrating their lore, and they actually have all these animatics, and they have TFT that in Runeterra that are actually building more off the lore, and that's great. You know, they're actually interacting with their universe. Overwatch, for example, they do nothing with it. You know, they have Winston and Tracer, and like, oh yeah, they work together, and you have the bad guys, but you know, when you're playing, they're playing on the same team. You know, everyone's interacting still, and they have lore where it's like, well, I thought you died. You know, it's like, no, I got better or whatever. You know, they have this lore, but they're literally doing nothing with it. So from that perspective, at least looking at Overwatch, it really means nothing. And it just feels really weird that Overwatch is still like trying to have lore with characters. I'm just saying it's kind of a mixed bag, I guess, to end my rant about it. And like if you can do it well, by all means, but if it's really just seems like a waste of time, I don't understand why you'd fool with it. And I think that's maybe what they're going for with Valorant.
I think a lot of it, to me, of Monty's point, is like an old man shouting at cloud. Like
that
like
to be fair, that's Monty has a lot of those points.
I mean, that is a Monty, and that's why I'm not a huge fan of him. But that's beside the point.
I can't argue with other like him and Thorin and a bunch of those other guys. It's really just like kind of shaking their fists at the clouds, like, oh.
Yeah, just to complain, because that's how they make money.
I mean, you know, that's their shtick, and it's good for them to lean into that so they can get, you know, build up their social profiles and stuff. I totally get it, you know.
Yeah, but I don't support them. You even if they get financed by Cloud9, I still don't support them.
That's totally fair. But let's move on to some other news. I have a few small little tidbits. Nyx, who was his Twitter handle's Nick FPS or Nyx FPS. He has parted ways with C9 and the Fortnite team. It kind of sucks, but we haven't really got a lot of attention from our Fortnite team. I think they're kind of on the way out. Battle Royales seem like kind of a dying esport. I don't think that, especially with Fortnite, I don't think that Epic has really done enough to really foster the professional scene in a positive way. So, you know, we're seeing our players play less. We're seeing less and less about events. So I think it kind of makes sense that we start to kind of cut at the Fortnite and other Battle Royale players just because, you know, those aren't active scenes anymore. And they're not anything that anyone's really hugely interested in.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of fell off quickly once they released the new season stuff with like the mechs or whatever. I remember seeing people complain about that, and then now it's just kind of dead.
Yeah, I remember a few seasons have continually like soured people's opinion on the game, and I remember seeing a lot of videos of really popular Fortnite streamers, like I think even Ninja and maybe even Shroud were saying like, look, this game's done. I really hate playing this game. They've made too many changes, and the changes that they made are things that I really disagree with. The only reason I play is because a lot of my viewership is Fortnite viewership. And I can't lose that viewership because that ties directly into how much I make. So I had to play this game that I really don't find fun anymore, and I just don't enjoy it. So, yeah, and I think that a lot of people who were playing Fortnite, and I guess to tie it back into Valorant, a lot of people that have played Fortnite and like Battle Royales and some like Overwatch players and CS players are starting to go to this new game because it's really interesting and has a lot of people curious. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of people kind of move around. It looks like people are kind of moving away from Battle Royales and definitely from Fortnite. But it's interesting to see if Fortnite will be around for much longer or if anyone really cares that much. We could just see like everyone kind of give up like competitively for Fortnite in like a year or so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They didn't do a very good job keeping their game fresh, but actually good at the same time.
Yeah, they really fell off. I do think that I will say that like Call of Duty's Warzone Battle Royale is actually good. It's the first Battle Royale that I've played that I actually really enjoy it. And you know, it's weird because I've played Battle Royales before and I really hated it because like I played PUBG, I played Fortnite, it all just felt kind of frustrating and kind of just like, well, this isn't really enjoyable. You know, I can see the appeal, but to me, it's just not fun. With Call of Duty, it's really fun because they have enough mechanics in there and how COD shooters like kind of handle as well as things like, oh, well, you can buy these perks at these, little weapon drop places, or you can buy your teammates back, and you have like you have like a gulag round if you die, so you can like have a second chance at coming back into the game. I think a lot of the mechanics keep the battle royale mechanic kind of fresh, but at the same time like interesting and fun. So I could see that maybe being the new thing, but I think that battle royales in general just aren't the big deal anymore. And I think that everyone's kind of moving away from that to probably some more stable esports, things that like are a bit more established and can, be built up and like marketed better.
Yeah, and it is kind of part of like the fads, and I'm kind of surprised that it's dying so fast because of how popular it was. But I guess it is what it
Yeah, I
is.
think it's honestly just bad management. I mean, I think I've heard like even people who play Apex, they're starting to just not play Apex anymore because they can't stand playing the game, and they think it's just dumb. You know,
Yeah, and and it's it's really hard to freshen up a battle royale, I guess,
yeah, I could
outside
see
of new
that.
maps.
Yeah, like either making new maps some new guns, but then the issue is like you always introduce a gun that's too overpowered, and then everyone complains like, oh well, this gun's overpowered, and then you have just so many issues. So it's but moving on, we have some Dota news, and it's not good news. Our Cloud9 Dota 2 team continues to be winless after fail. They have lost 0-2 in both of their Beyond the Summit Dota matches that's going on, and I gotta say, this is not the performance that I expected out of the Cloud9 Dota squad. I was expecting for, we signed this Dota team. I thought we would have a plan, and we'd be getting talent. Like, okay, we can have like a contenders squad that can actually like do some things. Nope. Just we signed a bunch of like I think like half the team is actually people who played for Cloud9 previously, and they've been playing for a while. So it kind of looks like, well, we got some players that are maybe on the outs. They can play for us for a little bit, and that's kind of it. And it's I don't even watch their games. I tried to watch some of their games, but I don't anymore because what I watched looked really bad, and it looks like they just don't get along and they don't understand what to do past a certain point.
Yeah, our annual or our biannual Dota team is doing as well as expected based on how we've performed with them in the past. I actually did not watch though because I think it was during something else, and I just didn't want to watch
I
it.
didn't watch these matches either. I remember I think it was the first Dota Summit that they did. Like they had some matches early on, and I watched them. Like there was a couple of games that I saw where they were up like I think like 8,000 gold or something. So it's like okay, they have a pretty good lead, like 4,000, 8,000 gold or something in there. It's like okay, they got a pretty good lead. They could probably win. They're looking good, and then they just lose. And I was kind of shocked. And then you see other games where it's like oh they're behind, and then they just really lose. So it doesn't really matter where the gold is at when it comes to this team. It just seems like inevitably they will just lose. It doesn't matter how far ahead they are. And
Yeah.
honestly, I say just cut this team. If this is what we're going to be saying for a little while, I say if you're not going to get players that you can like have to match North American talent or whatever, which I don't expect to be much considering Dota's really different than League of Legends in terms of the scene. But if you can't match like even I don't know the worst North American team. I don't even know who the worst team is. But if outside of us, I guess. But like if you're just struggling with every team you play and you're constantly struggling, and if you're not going to put forth the effort to get players that can give us a shot at winning, and I don't expect winning like TI, but at least winning domestically to a fair deal. What's the point of even having the team? I know the space is ripe for plucking maybe, and it's definitely healthy to get us into the Dota scene. But if this is what we're going to deal with, I say just cut it. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, but I can't imagine. Oh, never mind. Broken thought.
I miss the Vainglory team. That's what I really miss.
Oh yeah, they were good.
That was the second like outside of League of Legends, they were the second best. They were like the best MOBA team that we had. They got back to back like championships in North America. They finished third at Worlds. You know, like they were like the best team, like one of the best teams in the world, Frozen. And then at the end of the year, we just cut the team because I think Vainglory was changing from 3v3 to like 5v5.
Oh yeah, that's what it
and
was.
and the game changed, and we were just like, well, the game's changing too drastically. We're not sure how to field players, and I think we just we just cut it. We just disbanded, and I was actually really upset because we had like the God Squad in Vainglory, third best team in the world, and back to back North American champions, and we just throw it away. I'm so sad, and to this day I mourn that team.
I also miss the mobile card tower defense game.
Oh
What,
yeah, yeah,
what,
Clash of Clans.
Clash of Clans. That's what it was.
Our
I
team
also
wasn't that good though.
we were good, but not great. But I remember watching them one night and having
It was an
lot of
interesting
fun.
game for
So
sure. I think production value and everything was surprisingly good. And it was interesting, especially since it was kind of a really smaller scene. And it felt like that made it a bit more fun because like watching Vainglory or like Clash of Clans, it was just like this smaller scene. So it's like, okay, sick. I really want to support the team, but they just kind of disbanded, and it just feels bad.
yeah, after they got rocked once, I feel like it was they're like, nope, never mind, we're done.
Yeah, nothing could hurt me again because I am done with this scene.
I think we also need a Smite team. I would
We
watch
had
that.
one. We
That was a
had
while ago, I think.
I believe our Smite team was actually really good. I can't remember how good they were, but I know our Heroes of the Storm team. We won a world championship,
Oh
Frozen.
yeah, I forgot about them.
That's super old school, but no one really remembers it. But we won a world championship, and then after that, we all disbanded because the scene was dying.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that, and we were right because Heroes of the Storm I feel like is dead. But what do
I want to
I know I
do
don't play.
like I want to do a retrospective like posting series on the sub and just be like, hey, you guys remember this team? And then just like list all of their accomplishments.
I'd be down.
It would be really dope. I think we need to remember where we've come from and to where we've gone.
Or yeah, but if we're talking about past glories and past successes, I feel like now is a good time to switch to CS:GO.
Yeah. So the
Who?
CS:GO team. So honestly, in my opinion, I'm not taking this loss too hard. So
No, me either.
They beat Orglis in a narrow like 2-1 win.
In Flashpoint
And
playoffs.
yeah, in Flashpoint playoffs, they're in the lower bracket final, and they lose the rematch to Habu. So
Which
personally,
which was expected.
no, yeah, I was kind of expecting. Personally, I think that's pretty good. We got top 4 in Flashpoint. I know a lot of other people are saying like, "Oh, this is unacceptable. We should be first." We were all expecting to kind of be crushing everybody, especially with a lot of the other teams that were in Flashpoint. It felt kind of like a tier 2 kind of league, and we got 4th. Personally, I think it's good. I think this is kind of the competition and the level of play that we got to expect. I think that if C9 wants to level up their play, I think they really need to either grind out really hard and change how they play, because how they play now is very this aggressive trade heavy kind of style where they go in and they'll suffer some heavy losses, and especially if MOTM is having a good day, or if Floppy isn't having a good day, or Sonic isn't having a good day.
Sonic went off on the T side against Havu, I think.
Yeah, like Sonic, Floppy, and MOTM, I think are the real rocks of that team. They're the ones that
didn't look that good. against Havu.
Yeah. Like if any of them have an off day, it makes it really hard for the team to perform. And sometimes that's just how it is. But I think that they're going to improve. I think they need to switch up their style. I think they need to learn how to play slow sometimes. Some people are saying to like get rid of some people, like get rid of like JT, because JT's definitely seems to be like the lowest performer so far. I think give it a little bit more time. I think this team has a lot of synergy, and I think it would be dangerous, at least right now, to start trying to tinker with the roster that already has like, you know, a lot of chemistry already. But I think eventually some changes will probably come out. I really like this group of guys, and I actually really like, as soon as I saw like some content with them, I instantly felt connected to them. It was like, okay, this is our CS:GO team. I'm excited again. I'm ready. These guys are great. I want them to do well.
Yeah. I also think it would be a bit early to switch to switch up players, because I think there's still a lot of growth that can be had with the resources that Cloud9 has over what they used to have. So I'm all aboard. Excuse me, I had a cough. I'm all aboard sticking with them until it we hit a hard ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. I think that they still have some time to grow. They do still have the Rio Minor, I think, whenever that is. They qualified for it, but I know that got pushed back due to the virus stuff. So I don't think that's for a little while, but it'll be interesting to see how they perform. I can probably see us doing a couple more major events, you know, like a couple minors, and maybe seeing if we can qualify for a major before we start making some changes. But I think until then, we should just try to, you know, get good with what we have and see if we can't increase our play through normal means.
Yeah, I'm all aboard that train.
All right. Well, let's leave that station and transition over to our next topic of League of Legends. Frozen, how'd you feel about that 3-1 victory against EG?
I'm kind of disappointed it wasn't a 3-0 because it really should have been. But I think we looked good enough to be content with how the series ended up playing out.
Yeah, honestly, I think that was I think it was a really good match. I think that EG was probably the first team in this playoffs to really push us. Like that game 3, you know, if you take out the game 3 and, you know, EG, you know, you just cut the film before Blabber starts to end, and you know, you take that game away. I think C9 looked really good. Everyone was playing really well. You know, everyone had their great moments. We even had some pretty big brain drafts by drafting a Blitzcrank into the Tom Kench Ash lane. So it meant that pretty much whenever Bang got eaten by Zazel, you would basically get a 2-for-1 hook. And you saw that multiple times where Bang, you know, Zazel will try to save Bang, Vulcan gets the hook, and then like it ends up usually just being like Zazel's at least dead. You can maybe get Bang too. And I think that we had a really good win. I think the first few games especially were just super dominant with how we played. And I think that was definitely to be expected. I also kind of expected, you know, game 3, you kind of throw that you can have like one throwaway game, especially when you're up 2-0. And then I think game 4, EG did have like some adaptation of Poppy's messing with their Aatrox and how they play around it. You know, you have to throw Cloud9 off by doing some stuff with support picks and whatnot, and banning out like the Zoe, so Niski can't play Zoe and stuff like that. So I think that overall it was a really good series, and it was pretty much to be expected for the most part.
Yeah, I was disappointed to see us throw away a 4.5K goal lead in game 3, because we had a 4.5K goal lead at 22 minutes, and then it just went all downhill from there. And I'm disappointed to see that, but I was happy to see them bounce back and adapt around to the Poppy pick in Game 4
Yeah,
by going with a Rumble and Blitzcrank.
yeah, I think that those were really great adaptations, and I think that the issue with Game 3 was, Pantheon's a really big early game champion, and C9 really didn't have a lot of damage. Pantheon doesn't do a lot. Talia really doesn't do a lot, and I think they also drafted Ezreal, who he kind of takes time to really ramp up, and until he gets like his tier fully stacked and he gets to like his completed Bork, that's when Ezreal can be really strong. And with them drafting Poppy, and makes a lot of our dashes actually inaccessible, because Poppy pops the force field, and then Aatrox can't dash, and Ezreal can't dash, and Pantheon can't dash. So they had like a lot of really good displacement and anti-engage disengage tools. So it was actually a bit expected if you look at the comp. I think that if Blabber didn't kill himself as much and we played around the globals a lot more, I think we could probably have won that game, but it kind of depends on Pantheon not really falling super behind and the Talia not falling super behind. Because if they both fall behind, you basically do nothing. And if you're not like using your global tools to specifically get like map picks to try to get some gold back, you're just kind of done. And that's kind of what happened in that game.
Yeah, but that the Pantheon Talia combo is gnarly, so
it's really strong, and we won it. We like stopped a game with it last time that we played with it. Yeah. So I think sometimes Blabber just has to like get the int out of his system, because like when we were up 2-0, he was playing super well and playing super smart. But I think that I think it has to do with confidence, and you're like, okay, we're up 2-0. I'm gonna just try to like Giga Smurf on them, and I'm gonna just go all out, balls to the wall kind of play, and that's what it looks like he kind of did. And then he realized like, okay, I need to bring it back down a little bit, and I think that that's what we saw in Game 4, and I think that really helped us with winning that game, of him just kind of bring it back down a notch.
Yeah, and I think it would have been better to 3-0 them and demoralize them in case we play them again, but nothing we can do now about that. How do you feel about the Evil Genius's FlyQuest series?
That's gonna be really tough. So I was watching like the TSM FlyQuest series, and what was so odd is that TSM and FlyQuest looked about the same level. But they were just really struggling in some aspects. Like sometimes they were struggling to close out games. Sometimes sometimes just like drafting was really weird. Like TSM did some things that like didn't make sense. Like especially last game, Dardock looked really, they like Game 4, both teams picked like these like really early aggressive comps, and TSM like flourished on it. It's like, okay, great. Dardock is like a really great aggressive early game jungler. Put him on Elise again, and they give him Sejuani, and it's like, no, that makes no sense. What are you doing? And I think that FlyQuest has some issues with coordination. And they seem like to really do well when solo does well.
Yeah,
and Power of Evil does well. Yeah, and like if solo isn't playing, or if he's not doing well, and if Power of Evil's struggling, the game's really just lost, because Wild Turtle was making some like really dumb moves, and it seems like classic Wild Turtle play. He's flashing forward, he's using all these resources aggressively, and then he just kills himself. And I'm watching that game just thinking like, wow, Wild Turtle is like making out like a bandit, stealing away paychecks from other North American AD carries that probably would have played just about as well as this.
Yeah, and he has arguably top 3 support right next to him, if not like a top two support right next to him also. Which
who's his support?
Ignar.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like if you're fucking up that bad, if you're struggling back that bad, when you have Ignar, who is a really good support, that's saying something.
But he did end up overcoming it in the end. I was not impressed with TSM. I felt like they would be inevitable, but they did not look good throughout playoffs.
No, like
they were lucky to get past 100 Thieves.
Yeah, I was gonna like even the 100 Thieves series looked really messy, and like they barely won that. And so I was thinking like, so like say TSM beat FlyQuest, I would be pretty comfortable going into the playoffs with whoever I face because all of these teams just look kind of bad. They just don't look like they have the same coordination and chemistry that our team seems to have. But to answer your question about EG versus FlyQuest specifically, I think it'll be an interesting game. Um, both teams really like to play through mid, and mid seems to be like a lot of their primary win conditions. So it'll be really interesting to see how like the champion pool really gets constricted between Jizuke and Power of Evil. I could definitely see Santorin visiting top lane a lot since Solo is probably going to have a skill matchup advantage over Kumo. And I think if FlyQuest is going to win, they have to pray Turtle doesn't do any more of those really dumb monkey brain style plays. Because if he does, oh man, they may be in trouble.
Yeah. On the first time around, Eva Geniuses won 3-1, and it was pretty convincing. So I think I have to favor Eva Geniuses in this match. But I think FlyQuest look decent against TSM, and I do think that if they play solo all 3, 4, 5 games, that they will have a chance to win the series overall.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's really difficult about calling this series is a lot of the teams, I think really anyone outside of who got into playoffs outside of us, the skill level seems very, very close to one another. So it's really difficult to really say who can really challenge one another and who can really definitively like beat one another. Because going into the TSM FlyQuest series, I was thinking, when playoffs happens, something happens with Bjergsen and TSM in general that like really gets them motivated and they increase their skill level by a notch. But then, TSM was struggling against FlyQuest, and they were even struggling against 100 Thieves in their previous match. So it was really kind of interesting to see, TSM and Bjergsen really struggling in playoffs and really struggling against FlyQuest and 100 Thieves when they really should be beating those teams. And FlyQuest, even in their games, they didn't look much better, so it's really difficult for me to really say which team is actually better over one another. I'm not sure if you share the same opinion.
Yeah, I feel like TSM didn't really show up to play, and I think FlyQuest kind of just outlasted them more than really defeating them. So
Yeah, I could see that.
it just felt like Bjergsen's head wasn't quite in it. Dardoch was lackadaisical, and they were really primed for someone to just come in, focus, and just slap them up a little bit. And I really didn't feel like FlyQuest did that either.
Yeah, I agree. They all look kind of meh. I'm really interested to see more what a lot of these teams are going to do during the off season because this spring season was really disappointing in terms of the level of play from a lot of these teams. Like Team Liquid didn't qualify for playoffs, which is, especially with what Team Liquid did for the past 2 years, is unacceptable. So I think there's going to be some big changes there. TSM, you have to think that they're going to get a new coaching staff after like what just happened this time around. There's no way that they would stick with Peter Zhang and Parth, I feel, considering what all went on. And if they do, and if Reggie continues to kind of lead TSM how he has been, I'm not sure how much longer TSM can really be successful and continue to like succeed. And stuff like 100 Thieves and like Immortals, you have to imagine with some of the gambles that they took off with like playing Ica into a lesser extent Ryoma and some of the moves that they made during the offseason, you have to feel like there's going to be a lot of shuffling going on.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do because I'm sure a lot of those guys signed full year contracts. So,
oh yeah,
it could be difficult to shuffle them, but I do think we will see some serious changes, especially among the teams that didn't miss playoffs outside of Team Liquid. I'm not exactly sure if they'll make a ton of changes, but Dig has already said that they're going to make
Oh yeah, I remember reading that Dig
changes.
was going to just blow up the roster.
Yeah, and I don't agree with a lot of what they've already said, but they do need to make changes. So
Oh, they definitely do, considering
they should do that.
yeah, like considering how they ended the season, there is, there's especially, with how like Hooney's played, they gave away Vulcan for like 1.5 million, and they gave Hooney like this huge like 2 million plus contract, and then they had to kind of settle for scraps, and then they had like an academy team which is basically like Dignitas plus, but they didn't utilize any of them either, and it's just like it's really confusing. And CLG, I think, is this the second time in a row that they've been 10th place? I can't remember where they finished last year.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember. But like CLG's definitely struggling, and I could definitely see them making a bunch of changes too, just because like they're 10th place, and CLG is like one of the quote unquote old guard teams. So I find it interesting that after all of this time, C9 has really been the only old guard team to really have consistent success throughout their entire LCS history, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's true, and we will have a really good chance to add to that success on Sunday when we take on the winner of FlyQuest and Evil Geniuses. I think the interesting thing in this matchup is the scheduling behind it. The third place game or the losers final is on Saturday, and the finals are on Sunday. So there's only a day to prepare for the team who wins on Saturday, and Cloud9 will only have one day to prepare for whomever they're playing.
I think that's fair, considering with the nature of this bracket, you basically get to see teams play a fair bit. So, Cloud9 has probably seen FlyQuest play a fair bit. They've seen them play. They will have seen them play like 3 matches now. Same with Evil Geniuses. They saw them. They played in the first round of winners. We beat them in the second round. They'll see them play again. So we've seen our potential competition play 3 times equally. So I think that this is fair. I think that their prep should probably be good, considering they have at least enough film to review of, the last week's games, and even if you wanted to go back, the first round games, and you can really see how they play, how they draft. I assume that they're scrimming regularly, and my only I just don't want them to get too overconfident. Their play has been great in the playoffs so far, and it looks like they haven't gotten too confident or too full of themselves. Licorice is super determined to win that trophy, so I hope that everyone is level-headed and isn't like, oh, we got this, we don't need to practice or anything. I hope that they are scrimming just as heavily as if they had been, before playoffs.
Yeah, and beating a team twice in 1 year is tough. Beating a team 3 times in 1 year is harder. So if you go up against Evil Geniuses, beating them a 4th time this year, in theory, is even a lot harder. So what are your predictions if we play Evil Geniuses?
I think it'll probably be 3-1, maybe 3-2. Evil Geniuses did have some good answers for us in the later halves of our second round game when we played them. So I think that they did show some good adaptation. I think they still struggled in some aspects. Jizuke, I think throughout the whole series, really struggled outside of the game where he played Zoe. So it seems like he really only shines on a few picks, and those picks have to be pretty powerful in general. I think the bot lane, I think we have a huge bot lane difference, and Sven and Vulcan can pretty easily beat the crap out of Bang and Zazel, especially if they just leave open Aphelios and we take Aphelios like we did for the first 2 games. And I think Licorice is really comfortable going into Kumo. He seems to be able to manage that matchup pretty well. So I think as long as the team is prepared and we can comfortably draft around any adaptations, I think we should be able to win 3-1 or 3-2. And I think the same goes for FlyQuest. We may have a bit more of an edge over FlyQuest since we haven't really played them all tournament.
Yeah, so what are your predictions if we play FlyQuest?
I think it'd be about the same. I think that the only difference would be, since Evil Geniuses and FlyQuest actually play fairly similarly, it would be about the same. I would maybe put more attention towards top lane just to make sure solo doesn't get super far ahead. But I think Licorice is pretty comfortable facing solo. I actually heard, I think that FlyQuest is actually one of C9's toughest scrim partners that they've been. But I think the bot lane, I think we absolutely destroy Wild Turtle. So there's no issue there. And I think Niski is a lot better than Power of Evil. So I think that we at least have the bottom half of the map covered. But I think it'll be a similar thing. I think it'll probably be a 3-1 or 3-2 if we play against FlyQuest.
Yeah, I think our pacing is a lot better against FlyQuest because Power of Evil and Santorin are more late game players,
Yeah,
and I think that's an easier match for us
Blabber
overall.
throughout this playoff tournament has had some really insane pathing. Like he has always been farming and getting like jungle leads ahead of his opponents. Like in 100 Thieves, the 100 Thieves match, he was so far ahead of Medios a lot of the time, and then the same thing kind of happened with when he was playing against Svenskeren. So I think that Blabber getting a big jungle lead really helps our team, and it especially helps when all the team seems to really move around him to help each other out in getting neutral objectives and stuff and making plays, where other teams, they don't move as much with their jungler. So I think that that's kind of a secret to our success, is that Niski is always roaming with Blabber to help him out, and Licorice is always roaming to help Blabber out, and even the bot lane is moving around to help him out. So since we're all kind of helping each other, it really makes it difficult for another team because it's always kind of uneven in the early game. Then we transform that into getting a lot of objectives, and then we're so strong that we just kind of steamrolled them at the end.
Yeah, and Blabber almost flame horizoned Svenskeren in 25 minutes last week in game 2. So I think I'm confident either way. But I think if we go against FlyQuest, it's 3-0, and if it's against Evil Geniuses, it's 3-1.
Yeah, I can see that. We'll have to see what happens Sunday. I am excited and nervous. I am trying to put all of my good vibes to the boys and hoping that they are not too cocky. They just go in like another day in the office and they try to do their best and they can win.
Yeah, and I think it'll help that they're playing inside of the house and not on a massive stage.
Yeah, I can only imagine like the crowd noise like just tilting you after like a few games.
But tune in Saturday at 4 p.m. to see FlyQuest and Evil Geniuses play, and then the winner of that will play Cloud9 on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the LCS title. Our first in what, 5 years, 4 years? 5 years.
Well, we go to the
First
finals almost every year, but if we win, it would be the first in 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, our first championship since spring of season 5. Is that correct?
I would think so. Yeah, because what was our first?
No,
one,
that's
like,
the first split I ever watched.
Wasn't our first like championship in like 2015? I think it's at least 5 or 6 years.
I'm looking it up. We won the 2014 yeah, I remember watching the TSM game in the spring split. So I think I guess I'm not sure. Was 2014 our last win?
It could be.
I think it was. Well, shucks. Yeah, it's our first chance and quite a few, or our first final where we're favorited, I think, in a really long time too. So
Yeah, it seems like every time we go into the finals, it's usually up against like Team Liquid or TSM, and we're not really that favored.
yeah, so this is probably our first finals as a favorite since we last won also.
Yeah.
But yeah, tune in, and hopefully we are lifting the trophy this time.
Yeah. I will be sure to tune in. Hopefully you guys will. And thanks for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.